Well, welcome to Christ and Culture. This is Pastor Jeff Short, your Bible teacher and cultural analyst. And today we're going to revisit a story that I covered from a biblical Christian perspective a few months ago, probably even maybe a year ago. On this broadcast, I talked about how the death penalty that the Bible outlines in Genesis 9:6, that if you shed the blood of an innocent man, your blood shall be shed. It is a command of God. It is a basic created society order. It is a command of God that we are to put to death someone who is immoral enough, evil enough, sinful enough to commit first-degree murder. These people should be put to death. That is the penalty. And that is actually a defense of the image of God that every human has by virtue of created order here in the world, that God established men and women created in the image of God. Every race, every tribe, every tongue, every person ever born and unborn, actually, every unborn child in the womb that's aborted is still made in the image of God. And that's why abortion is wrong, because they are made in the image of God. But those who are born are made in the image of God, and they deserve to receive justice if they are unjustly killed. And that is what has happened in the situation here with this healthcare executive for the United Healthcare. I don't know much about him. I don't have to know much about him. He was a healthcare executive, and he was doing his job. Now, we may not like what he was doing. We may not like the policies of United Healthcare. We may have some grievances about United Healthcare's policy and so on and so forth. But the CEO of the company does not deserve to be gunned down on the streets of New York by this Mangione. And then Mangione gets to escape the just penalty and punishment for his crime. No, that is not fair. That is not justice. Well, that's just what happened when a judge, a female judge, decided that she was going to rule out the death penalty. So here the federal government has a charge against this murderer, and now they can't seek the death penalty because some federal judge decided that she's going to take the death penalty off the table. This is not justice. This is not. It shows you how corrupt our criminal justice system is. When some activist judge, some liberal leftist judge, can take some technicality or point of law or whatever she wants to do, because she's the judge, and she can rule out the death penalty to a man who deserves to die. And that may not sound Christian, because a lot of Christianity today is more sentimentality than anything else. It's more touchy-feely, kumbaya Christianity, instead of actually looking at the Bible and saying, look, if you are a criminal and you kill people in cold blood, your life shall be taken from you because you forfeited your life by doing this dastardly deed. And if we don't have that in society, then we're headed down the road to chaos. It's just as simple as that. Let me let a video summarize what actually happened, and then we'll get into the actual article that I want to read. But I may stop this video from time to time, but let's roll the clip and see what this video actually uncovers.
A federal judge ruled that Luigi Mangione is exempt from facing the death penalty after he was accused of murdering United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson roughly 1 year ago. The U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, Judge Margaret Garnett, blocked federal prosecutors from pursuing the death penalty in the case.
Yeah, so this federal judge in a deeply radical leftist democratic stronghold, New York State, has ruled out the death penalty for this murderer. And we know he's a murderer because it's caught on video. We know that all the evidence points that he killed this CEO, shot him in the back, the most cowardly way to kill someone. takes a gun out, aims it at his back as he's walking away, and shoots this CEO in the back. This is despicable. This is outrageous. It shouldn't have taken this long even to put this criminal monster to death. It's been over a year, and this man still has not had to face courtroom. He has still not had to face justice. And now he doesn't even have to worry about being put to death because there is a liberal leftist judge, female judge, who, with her toxic empathy, and this is something that Allie Beth Stuckey, conservative podcast host and commentator, has outlined in her book that she released in 2024, I believe it was, that I read, called Toxic Empathy. I did a review of her book, Toxic Empathy. It's an excellent book. The basic premise is that for a lot of women, if an appeal to the emotions can be made, they can be used and twisted and manipulated to support all kinds of evils. Abortion is called abortion care. Oh, it's caring for the women. No, it's killing babies. Or transgenderism, gender-affirming care, that's the phrase. And that sounds so helpful and loving, and we're affirming this person's identity, when it actually means cutting off totally healthy body parts and manipulating and ruining their life for the whole extent of their life because they've made bad decisions as a teenager that they've decided to, quote, transition. And a lot of women buy into that because of what Allie Beth Stuckey labels toxic empathy, which is exactly true. And here we have a female judge with toxic empathy looking at Mangione and saying, oh, well, we can't put him to death. We wouldn't want to do that. That would hurt his rights. That would violate his human rights. That's not, and all these pitiful excuses. And again, this shows the corrupt nature of our criminal justice system. It's really bad.
Case, which was triggered in December 2024 when Thompson was mysteriously gunned down on a Manhattan street.
So here is a video of Thompson shooting the CEO to death in the back on the streets of New York in front of his hotel. There's the gun. There's Thompson. There's his backpack. There is the murder right there in front of it. How do you get more evidence from that? You can't. It's a slam dunk case. Everybody knows it. Except now in our criminal justice system, which is perverting justice and delaying justice and preventing justice and twisting and manipulating and perverting everything, now we move from a super clear-cut case of cold-blooded murder on the streets of New York. We move from that to a situation where now this guy, he's actually got a pretty good chance of getting off the hook. Yeah, they're going to try to manipulate all the evidence. Oh, that was taken illegally, that they didn't follow this procedure. And they're going to try to take this preposterous idea that he's not guilty when everybody sees he is, and they're going to try to manipulate a jury and manipulate evidence and throw out this piece and throw out that. And they may actually let this guy walk like O.J. Simpson walked. And that can happen right in front of everybody's eyes in the United States because we have a perverted, toxic empathy, judges who are manipulating the justice system, and crooked lawyers and a corrupt, politically correct DEI hiring judges, corrupt system that really infuriates a lot of just regular citizens.
Mangione still faces a maximum sentence of life in prison without parole, as the case.
So now he has gotten the death penalty ruled out, and so he faces life in prison, which is not justice. He killed someone. He needs to die. That's what the Bible says. That's what our faith teaches. That's what Christianity has taught for 2,000 years until maybe rather recent times where everybody's starting to get this toxic empathy idea where, oh, well, we can't kill this man. He's a young man. Look at him. He's a young and up and coming man. We want to try to rehabilitate him. Maybe he can actually go free in 20 years or so because he's got his whole life ahead of us, and blah, blah, blah. This emphasis on the perpetrator instead of looking at the monstrous thing that he did. He killed a man in cold blood, and now he's pled not guilty. So yeah, they're going to fight the whole charges, and hopefully this ruling by this federal judge can be totally overruled. Maybe they can take it to the Supreme Court, have the Supreme Court bring some sanity on this issue and say, no, we're going to pursue the death penalty. This judge has been ruling with toxic empathy. We cannot have this. We need a justice system who administers justice and do something to correct this, because this guy is going to manipulate the system all the way to his freedom.
Proceeds to trial on other accounts. The development marks a blow to Attorney General Pam Bondi's office.
And again, I raise the question, and you can do this in all areas of society, why is there a female attorney general? Why is this woman the attorney general? Do you think this prosecutor, this lead prosecutor for the federal government, this attorney general, do you think she intimidates any bad guy? You think she strikes fear into the hearts of criminals? I don't think so. Now, she's on the right side on this issue, but still, why do we have women in positions of these tough positions of authority? You know, what is next? That we have a woman in charge of the entire military operation for our country? Is that what's next? We have women police chiefs. We have women fire department chiefs. Why are women put in these leadership positions in areas where it's overwhelmingly run by men? Police are overwhelmingly men because of their physical abilities and on all their other skills. And women are not usually very numerous in police departments, and they're not very numerous in frontline military positions and all these other things. And there's a reason for that, because of their gifting, their qualities, their skills. And they need to be put in areas where they can have their skills maximized. But the men should be in these tough positions. Pam Bondi should not be Attorney General. And Kristi Noem should not be the leader of Homeland Security and standing before the press, because it doesn't look authoritative and it doesn't scare any bad guy.
Last April, Bondi instructed prosecutors to seek the death penalty, calling Tom.
Again, here's a woman who's supposed to be giving a tough message, and then to her right, there's another woman policeman. What is this stance, what does this posture say to bad guys, these criminals, cartel members, gang members? It says to them, hey, we can do whatever we want to do because the women are in charge and they're going to have empathy and sympathy for us, and they'll let us off. Even if we murder someone, they're going to remove the death penalty, and they're going to do this and that and the other, and we can manipulate their emotions and feelings, and they're going to go lenient on the bad guy. And so, yeah, we can do whatever we want. The criminals can rule the roost because of empathy and sympathy and men not being in positions of authority where they need to be because of their skills.
Thompson's killing, a premeditated, cold-blooded assassination that shocked America. Garnett did hand prosecutors a win, ruling that they may use evidence seized during a controversial search of Mangione's backpack.
Yeah, this is supposed to be considered a win. This liberal judge, gave prosecutors, quote, a win because now they can use actual evidence against Mangione. What is the win? Of course you use evidence against Mangione. Of course you use his backpack. Of course you use his journal where he says he's going to kill some CEO. Of course you're going to. Why is this a victory? Because our corrupt system of justice today doesn't give justice. It's manipulated, it's political, and now prosecutor has to say, wow, thank you, judge, for letting us actually use evidence against a killer, and they think that's a win.
He was initially arrested at a Pennsylvania McDonald's 5 days after Thompson's death. The gun Mangione allegedly used to shoot Thompson, and a notebook musing about plans to whack the CEO were...
Yeah, the judge, this liberal leftist Democratic state judge, says, I'm giving you all this opportunity to win your case because now you can use evidence. Duh. Yeah, of course you can use evidence because that's what is used in a courtroom. So it's not any concession.
Found during the search, according to prosecutors. Prosecutors have argued the death penalty is necessary due to allegations that Mangione meticulously planned the murder.
Obviously he did because he had his notes saying that he was going to kill a CEO. That's premeditated.
Making him an exceptionally dangerous individual who hunted Thompson down.
Yeah, so we really need to do a total reformation of the justice system, and we need to eliminate these perversion of justice that come up, especially in the hands of these liberal leftist judges. Now, let me go over to an article and comment a little bit more about this situation because, again, we need to, from a Christian perspective, we need to say, look, yeah, we are commanded to love by Jesus Christ. We're commanded to reach out to the poor and the needy and so on and so forth. We are not commanded to pervert justice out of a sense of toxic empathy and sympathy for perpetrators. It says, judge bars federal prosecutors from seeking death penalty against Luigi Mangione. A judge has ruled that the federal prosecutors can't seek death penalty against Luigi Mangione in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. U.S. District Judge Margaret Garnett's ruling Friday foiled the Trump administration's bid to see Mangione executed for what is called premeditated murder. Okay. Again, it's hard to know, but it could be even that this judge, this liberal judge, Margaret Garnett, doesn't like Trump. So, Orange Man bad, let's foil whatever his administration wants to do. They want to seek the death penalty to this murderer. Okay, well, we're going to thwart that. We're going to oppose that because we don't like Trump. Orange Man bad. Federal prosecutors can't seek death penalty against Luigi Mangione in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, a judge ruled Friday. Okay, Margaret Garnett dismissed a federal murder charge that had enabled prosecutors to seek capital punishment, finding it was technically flawed. Technically flawed. So it doesn't matter if the evidence is a mountain against this guy and that he's guilty as much as you can prove. She found a technical flaw in their argument, and she wrote that she did so to foreclose the death penalty as an available punishment to be considered by the jury as it weighs whether to convict Mangione. So she doesn't like the death penalty. She might be one of these people that opposes the death penalty, or she's in a state that opposes the death penalty, and so she's going to oppose the death penalty because she doesn't like it. She's got her own psychological reasons why, and so she's going to prevent the federal government from seeking death penalty. And again, like I said before, this is anti-biblical, anti-Christian. The teachings of the Bible are very clear on this, especially first-degree murder. Garnett also dismissed a gun charge. She dismissed a gun charge, but left in place stalking charges. Oh, that's great. So now they can charge this guy for stalking when he's on videotape killing this man. But the most they can charge him for is stalking. Yeah, he stalked this person, but he did more than stalking. He killed him. You could stalk someone and not kill them. This is so insane. That carry maximum punishment of life in prison in order to seek the death penalty, prosecutors needed to show that Mangione killed Thompson while committing another crime of violence. What? So it's not enough to show him killing someone. They have to show that he had committed another crime of violence. Stalking doesn't fit that definition, Garnett wrote in her opinion, citing case law and legal precedent. Wait, this is all confused. So she throws out the death penalty and says you can charge him with stalking. Well, why are we throwing out the death penalty? Because stalking doesn't rise to the level of a crime of violence. Well, yeah, but you see how twisted this is. In a win for prosecutors, Garnett ruled that prosecutors can use evidence collected from his backpack during his arrest, including 9mm handgun and a notebook in which authorities say Mangione described his intent to whack an insurance executive. Mangione's lawyer had sought to exclude those items, arguing that the search was illegal because police hadn't obtained a warrant. So this murderer was trying to get his lawyer to throw out all of the evidence against him. And the judge, in a concession to the prosecution, said, well, yeah, you can use some of that evidence. Yeah, while ruling out the death penalty. The ruling could subject to appeal. Garnett gave prosecutors 30 days to inform her of any plans to appeal her death penalty decision. I hope they do. Right to the Supreme Court. A message seeking comment was left for a spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan, which is prosecuting the case. Garnett acknowledged that the decision may strike the average person, and indeed many lawyers and judges, as tortured and strange. Yeah. And the result may seem contrary to our intuitions about criminal law. Yes, exactly. But she said it reflected her committed effort to faithfully apply the dictates of the Supreme Court to the charges in this case. The law must be the court's only concern. Yeah, it runs against everything and it runs against basic justice in everyone, because when you have someone who is caught on videotape killing someone in cold blood and then you let them off. Mangione has pleaded not guilty to federal state charges. So he's gonna maintain that he's totally innocent. You got the wrong guy here. He appeared in court. Now, I can understand if it's in the state of New York, they're against the death penalty, they don't allow it. Okay, so they don't allow it in the state charges. What about the federal charges? That's a whole different thing. Well, this federal judge has said that he can't be charged federally. He appeared in court for a previous scheduled conference in a case shortly after the written ruling was issued. So here we are, more than a year. It was done in December of 2024. So we're talking about over a year. And they're just getting going on the case. You know, this case should have been already wrapped up. He should have already gotten the conviction of the death penalty. He should have already been put to death. And the bad guys in society should have already taken note that this is what happens when you do things like kill someone in cold blood in New York City on the sidewalk. It's just outrageous that any sane courtroom would put up so many roadblocks to justice, and that we would have to deal with these judges who obviously are not seeking justice. Let's look at the video.
When Thompson was mysteriously gunned.
Look, here's the defendant. There's his gun. There's the CEO. He comes out, he stalks him, shoots him in the back, kills him in cold blood, and then escapes. They arrest him, and now the prosecution is just lucky to be able to use the evidence, some of the evidence against him. And the judge is saying, well, you can't seek the death penalty because, well, stalking isn't a violent crime. After she's ruled out the death penalty, it makes no sense. It is totally convoluted. It's totally irrational. It shows you the state of the justice system. It's the same way with the killer of the 4 students in Idaho. Here they've got their man, they've got the killer. He killed 4 human beings, 4 young people, in cold blood. They have evidence. It should be a slam dunk case. But because of our corrupt legal system, anything to do with the death penalty and anything to do with capital punishment and related issues, all of a sudden, the justice system grinds to a halt. Endless appeals, endless judges ruling this, and then another judge rules this, and then it's tied up in court for the next 10, 20 years, and justice is never administered. And so the people in that case, the prosecutors in that case in Idaho, basically said, look, we could go for the death penalty, but this is going to take forever. And you never know what's going to happen in the courtroom. You might get a whole jury full of toxic empathy ladies, and they have sympathy for the perpetrator, and they want to throw out the case or do this or do that, and they never know what's going to happen. So they just said, well, I think the best way to get this guy off the streets and keep him off the streets is to offer him a plea bargain. You voluntarily plead guilty, and you won't be put to death. And that's what they did. Why did they do that? Because of the corrupt justice system in our country that delays justice, denies justice, perverts justice, corrupt lawyers, corrupt judges, corrupt system, politics is involved, anti-Trump, liberal, leftist, Democrats. It's just a mess. And now we have the same thing happening with Luigi. He's going to get off. He might even be out in 20 years. Who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? When you have a corrupt system, you never can predict what's going to happen. He could go in there and he could be tearful and seem like such a nice guy, nice young man. And the jury could be swayed by his argument, and who knows, he might actually get away with murder, just like O.J. Simpson did. He was a free man. Remember that? O.J. walked free after killing 2 people violently with a knife. We need to pray that the Lord spares our nation, because we are a corrupt nation, and we need to change that, or else something far worse will happen. Hope this has been helpful. We'll see you back next week. God bless.